Hi, this is Chris Grimm, and you're joining me now for Deep Work Fast. Thank you, by the way. Every week I come to you for 20 minutes or less with tools, books, ideas, concepts, anything possible that I have in my toolkit. 28 years of coaching people just like you. So I have a lot of tools, a lot of experience with the application of these tools, helping people. And every week I just bring you something that I know that if you look into this, learn the tools, use these ideas, you will be the best you can be personally and professionally in all the roles you play. And so if you're a first timer, thank you and welcome. If you've come back, thank you. And you have heard me talk about, if you have been here before, the fact that we have a lot of people in work and home that probably need to sharpen their critical thinking skills and their problem solving skills. Why? Well, because we have more information and data flowing through our businesses and in our homes than we ever have before. So whether you're buying a car or your team is trying to solve an important business problem, because we have more data faster than we've ever had it in different ways, we're being asked to problem solve differently than we did before. And it seems in the last 10 years, but probably since the pandemic, I'm recording this in 2025, so it's been about 5 years. And now what I see with leaders and teams is that there is a requirement for groups of people to share, analyze, have shared language around, and then use data as quickly but as well as possible together to make decisions, often under an incredible amount of time pressure, and maybe actually also, in most cases, pressure around not only that decision or that project or that initiative, but the downstream effects on your business. And like I said, in our homes, we also have it because now you have the internet. We used to buy a car, we would go to a car dealership, we would walk in, we would talk to the salespeople, we would explore maybe when we could go online. But now you have people who are going into any retail establishment, not just cars, with a phone or a device where you can compare prices. You could be sitting with a salesperson getting ready to, or the salesperson thinks you're going to buy the car from them. And on your phone, you could be doing business, the same deal with someone else at the same time. Now, I'm sure you're not surprised by anything I'm saying. You know that it's true. But it has created a complexity. It's also created expectations of each other that many people are blind to. So I want to, this week, bring into your awareness the need for you and others to be better at decision making. But before you can make the decision, you need to also know how to think critically, maybe think more clearly about any information that you have, how you're processing that information, understanding your argument for whatever it is you believe needs to happen. Understand what the other people around you are thinking and why they are either arguing against you or with you. So that if you're on a team, or maybe you're the leader of a whole bunch of teams, that we understand the rationale for what we're doing. And hopefully, because in most cases, in both work and home, I am sure like you, like most people, myself included, we want predictable outcomes. We want what we want. And we usually want them in a certain time frame. Well, the only way we can do that is if we know how to share with each other along the way, not after we make a decision and it works or doesn't work, but we need to do it together better. And so I want to recommend 3 books to you. You don't have to read all 3. I'm going to explain them really quickly here today so that you can decide which one is right for you. Maybe for you and your team members, you could do a little book club and use the tools. All of these books are not fiction books you're going to see here. They are nonfiction. They are all about problem solving, but different kinds of critical thinking and problem solving. That's why I said you need to pick the one that is best for you in your situation with your team or your family. It could be that you and your partner and your children, if you have them, or maybe your extended family, need to solve some real problems together. And it's not all equal. And I want to say the part of this that tends to be a little uncomfortable for people, or uh, we don't all share the same educational background, work experience, um, even the kinds of work experience that we have, depending on the level of work we've done before, the size of the organization we worked with before, the schools that we've attended, right? We don't all have the same thinking methodology or problem solving methodology. So, this is a way for you to create some parity, right? So that you can, if you have a team, like I said, or even a group at home, so that everyone's at least able to speak clearly to each other about how you're thinking and why you're thinking it. So the first book I'd love to recommend to you, this is not a new book, it's like 2014, I think. You can get it on Amazon. It's called Think Smarter by Michael Kallet. All the links to these books will be in the chat if they already aren't there, and also in my blog. So you're welcome to just grab it there and just listen to me now. The book Think Smarter, Critical Thinking to Improve Problem Solving and Decision Making. I also believe that the tools in this book can help you be more creative, or you and your team to be more creative if that's necessary. I love this book. This sounds really geeky. I think you will too. It's not a long book. These tools are great, but it helps you do one thing that I think all organizations need to be able to do. And if you're a leader, I urge you to want all of your people and their people, the leaders in your organization, 1, 2 levels down from you, wherever you are, to know what critical thinking actually is. And so a few minutes ago, I said, because we all didn't go to high school, college together, we don't always know, based on what's on someone's resume or what they tell you, what kind of thinking tools they were exposed to during their time of education. And if you have people on your team who don't have an undergraduate or a graduate degree, and that's fine, because in some organizations and some businesses you don't need that. But what that does is that it means we need to learn how to talk about critical thinking with each other so that we can do it well together. You can't assume everyone thinks the same way. And so the more complex the issues, the more critical thinking that is necessary, right? And critical thinking means we go beyond the obvious, that we question things in new ways. This book has frameworks and tools that are easy to apply. I think they're explained quite well. It's not too academic. It also talks about something that I see on teams that people don't do well, which is inspection. I mean, really inspecting their own thinking, really diving deep into finding the root cause of problems versus making assumptions or talking to 1 or 2 people and making a hasty generalization about what might be happening in your business. Maybe looking at data that's too recent. There's a whole bunch of ways that I see teams make decisions fast and often in a short-sighted way. So downstream, they don't get the results that they want. And then you, if you're the boss or the leader, most likely are dissatisfied. And because I coach people, some of you would say then to me, I need my team to think better. I need new thinking tools or mental models or something, and it's fast. I don't have time to send them all to get their MBA. Of course you don't. So this book also talks about something, before I move on to the next one, that's really important. The idea of a framework of everyone on your team asking questions like, who is this initiative, project, or problem important to? What are the needs that we're trying to fulfill? What are the needs that are being communicated to us as an organization that we're not meeting, even though maybe we're doing great things and these customers keep coming back to us? Or maybe you're talking about employee engagement problems or culture issues or downstream effects in your market or in your industry that you see coming towards you, but the team isn't solving those problems yet. They're just going to wait until the problems get here. And you as the leader are saying, we can't wait. We can't wait. We need to do budgets now. We need to think about a year from now and how this is going to happen. We need to get in front of it, make sure we have the right employees, whatever. This talks about the why, the who, the needs, and what else. And often what I see is teams tend to move quickly past things the goals they have, whatever's happening in that quarter. They don't often stop to ask what's coming next. And so they don't anticipate and get in front of or prevent the problems that could be boiling off to the side or in the deep future, and maybe they get here sooner than we planned. So that is my first book I recommend to you. Again, it's called Think Smarter, Critical Thinking to Improve Problem Solving and Decision Making by Michael Kallet. And the link is there in the chat. The second book is called Super Thinking, the Big Book of Mental Models. There's about 300 mental models in this book. Now, I don't recommend this for everyone, but I will say to you, if you or people on your team don't have graduate level education or didn't attend a high school or college that required, mandated capstone projects or long-term group problem solving that required deep analysis. So if someone does not have that experience, most likely they haven't used some mental models or frameworks that for people who have had those experiences would use them. I will give you an example. If someone's never strategic planned before, most likely they don't know what a SWOT analysis is. They don't know what a PET scan is. They don't know, I could go on, right? There are some models and frameworks that are out there. They're available. Not everybody knows what they are. So why wouldn't you ask your team to get familiar with some of these models and use them together? The reason why I think this is super important, and I see this a lot in mid-size and small businesses, more than I do in big enterprise businesses, because in large enterprise businesses, we often have teams and leaders who do have an MBA or have been working long enough with other people who are highly educated and have gone through programs or certification programs where a lot of these mental models and frameworks are used. People know when to use them, they know how to use them, and they do it fairly quickly so that they're not just making decisions every day based on what they believe are the facts and their opinion about those facts. So when you're running a business, and I'm probably going to tell you something that you know, but hopefully this will motivate you to help get your team thinking about thinking in a way that they want models. They don't want to just look at the facts that are available and then have an opinion, maybe talk to one or two people and then make the decision and move on, right? When the problems are complex, you need more than that. And so what I see happening with a lot of these teams, and it may be yours, right, is that sometimes people are just too lazy. Sometimes they don't know what to look for. If they've never heard of something, they're not going to go Google it because they won't know that it exists. Even if someone on the team said, oh, you know what, have you ever seen something like this? And maybe they draw it on the whiteboard. But if no one's ever seen it, the team's not going to embrace it as a tool to use. So I would say to you, you don't need all 300 of these models. I love this book because it just takes all of these mental models and frameworks that are known, that are useful, that are proven, and that are fairly easy to use, and it makes them available to people. There's digital versions of this. There's a website for it. There's the book. I'm not going to try and sell it to you anymore. I don't get anything from any of these people. I just know that when teams understand how to use these tools and they actually use them, they get better results faster. Don't you want that? Yeah. Okay, the third book that I want to introduce you to is called The Art of Thinking Clearly by Rolf Dobelli. Okay, this book is interesting because most people don't like to admit that they have cognitive bias and sometimes logical thinking fallacies. Most of us don't want to believe that. We're moving fast. We don't examine our own thinking. There's, like earlier I was saying, inspection of our own thinking, right? Most people don't slow down enough to inspect their own thinking. And I believe that as we move forward, we can't operate the way we have in the past anymore. We just can't. Our organizations have changed, but like I said, it's just the problems are too complicated and there's too much competition. Like you just can't wait. And you don't want to solve problems from flawed, biased thinking. So I just want to say this to you, and maybe it'll help you understand what it is I'm talking about, and maybe this is the one of the 3 books that you will choose, or maybe you won't. But we don't want skewed decision making. And this book does a nice job of talking about the 2 things that I just mentioned, cognitive bias, and there's about 12 or 13 common cognitive biases, whatever the plural is for that. Some examples I'll just talk to you about, and then you'll understand what I'm talking about. And they're super common, and we see them all the time. We probably do them all the time. We don't realize that they're skewing the way we're making decisions. They're actually pitfalls. One is confirmation bias. That's one of the most common. I see it all the time. I try to point it out to leaders and teams. I've probably said it to you. Confirmation bias is where we think we know the answer. And so we look for reinforcing loops, right? We look for the data. We look for the proof that we're right. That's called confirmation bias, right? We're looking for a confirmation of what we're biased in thinking. Now, that can help you move quickly. It also can create problems because if you think about an executive team, each person most likely has their own bias, what they believe to be true, what they want to happen, the outcomes they think they want, right? Each one of us might be going towards the same shared goal, but often everybody around the table has a different how fast, how slow, who should be involved, who should not be involved, right? All of those things. And so what we do then is we tend to build the case. If we default into cognitive bias, we build the case for our version of this being right. It creates conflict. It also creates fragmented leadership teams. So I'm speaking specifically to you as a leader right now or a member of a leadership team. It's a problem and it happens all the time. It's really common. So this is one of those things where I shine the flashlight. Do you guys see that you're doing this? We use a tool called the ladder of inference. That's one of those mental models. It's actually a mental model tool about mental models. See, I'm geeky. That helps you see your own thinking. And cognitive bias is one of those things that I'm always trying to help people see so that you can change it if you choose. The second one is decoy effect. So we all do this, but I'll use an example that is so easy to see. If you were going to buy a car and you actually walked into a dealership or called the dealership or went online, the decoy effect is a manipulation to help you make the decision they want you to make. So let's say you go into the car dealer and you've been looking at a car that costs $30,000. Well, when you get there and you ask to see that car, most likely the salesperson is going to show you other things and or that same car, but a more expensive one. Maybe it's going to have leather seats and cool rims or some cool stereo. So now you've got a $30,000 car and a $40,000 car. Well, that salesperson, if they're good, they know that they've got to present you with a third option that is just significantly more expensive so that you buy the middle one. So you come in for the $30,000, they show you the version that's the $40,000, but then to get you to buy the $40,000 one, not default to the cheaper one, they show you a $65,000 car or an $80,000 car. They want to keep it close enough so that you're thinking about, can you reach it or not? So the more expensive car, the most expensive car they show you that day becomes the decoy. So that now you have 3 options that you didn't know you had before. And now that $40,000 car doesn't feel so expensive now, does it? In fact, it feels like a deal because it's got all these bells and whistles. So you're definitely not going back to that $30,000 car. And if you can't reach to the 65,000 one, they're going to sell you the 40,000. Bada bing. Decoy effect. It happens all the time. Salespeople, specifically in retail, but all salespeople have tools in their kit to help people make decisions this way. It is a form of manipulation. It's also a form of cognitive bias because they know your bias is going to be probably to get the best deal you possibly can. You're looking for value of some sort. And by creating that decoy with the third thing, you go in the middle and you think that is the best value. If you didn't know about it, now you do. Okay, a third way that this happens is attribution or fundamental attribution error. Okay, this happens all the time. I see it in coaching. That means we have a few attributes that we tend to believe are the most important things. We oversimplify as humans all the time. And I'll tell you a way you might be doing it as a leader or manager. And this is a good thing for you to know about yourself. I know I'm a little over time, so stay here with me because this is a good one. Attribution error means you start to believe that poor performance in your employees can only be because of a few things. Right now in 2025, I hear leaders say people who work at home aren't as productive as people who come to the office. Why? Well, because they want them to come to the office. So they create an argument that says, oh, let's look at all the people who are working remote and see how many of those people are not doing all the things we need them to do. Their performance is lower. And they start to attribute that outcome to the fact that they might be working remote. Maybe working remote makes people lazy. I don't know. Think about all the things that you've heard. But this is a fundamental attribution error because it's flawed thinking. It's taking a complex variable, a human, and a human's behavior, and it's trying to boil it down to 1, 2, or 3 things to make our life easier. And that's what management, HR, etc. do, right? We have to try and create systems. Now, sometimes that's not wrong. So let me just say that sometimes you're right. Sometimes that actually is the reason why something is happening. But when we're given complex problems, when we have to make a decision about 1,500 employees, not one employee, most likely there are more attributes that we need to consider instead of just the fundamental few. Okay. I've gone on and on. I've gone over time today. You can see that I'm passionate about this topic. I hope you are too. So I'm going to leave you today and ask you to just pick one of these books, click the link, read the blog. It's about 2 minutes. It's going to bring back into your consciousness the things that I'm saying and more. It's going to give you the links to the books. I want to make you the best that you can be as a manager, as an employee, as a partner, as a parent, whatever it is you're doing. Let's do it the best that you possibly can and bring everybody around you with you. All right. Thank you. Join me again for Deep Work Fast next week. Grab that blog. Bye.